I thought you said that when a light on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners March 28th workshop this morning. Our first item of business is to present a proclamation honoring the 2023 state champion Griffin High School girls basketball team and the voice of the Griffin High School Bears. Commissioner Rodney McCord will present the proclamation. So
we're doing here right now. We'll come up and do a picture. This is a proclamation recognizing the Griffin High School girls basketball team for a state championship 2023. Whereas the Griffin High School girls basketball team won the 2023 4A state championship, the team completed the season with an overall record of 27-4. Whereas under the leadership and guidance of head coach Roy Johnson, assistant head coach Willie Pluckett, assistant coach Javon Thompson, and assistant coach Tyrell Robinson, the team competed in the finals at the Macon Coliseum on March 8, 2023, and came away with a hard-fought victory over Baldwin High School. And whereas the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners recognized the Griffin High School girls basketball team members, including seniors Leah Turner, Aaliyah Durham, Raquariana Reed, Samia Puckett, or should I say Samia Puckett, Amy Mobley, and Zai Thompson. Juniors, Zamaya Hosley, Kamaya Starks, Kamora Martin, Kyler Jefferson, that's my cousin, Casey Smites, and Adriana Edwards. Sophomore, Renaya Harris, who made probably the biggest play of the game. Freshman, Lauren Henley, and Bella Daniel, AKA Big Bella. The team has demonstrated hard work, dedication, and perseverance, and love of sport of basketball. The season runs from October to March, and the team practices about 10 to 15 hours per week. Whereas this is the first girls state basketball championship in Griffin High School's history. And this talented group of young women includes Region 2 4A Defensive Player of the Year and First Team All-Region, Aaliyah Durham, First Team All-Region, Zai Thompson, and Leah Turner. And Region 2AA Honorable Mention, Zamaya Hosley. And also the Region Coach of the Year, Mr. Roy Johnson. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize the team and allow all local citizens to express their congratulations and convey their appreciation for this achievement. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of the City of Griffin does hereby proclaim Tuesday, March 28, 2023, to be Griffin High School Girls Basketball Team Day in the city of Griffin, Georgia, and urges all citizens to congratulate the team on this monumental accomplishment. And we have hereunto caused the seal of the City of Griffin to be affixed on this, the 28th day of March in the year of our Lord, 2023, signed by our Mayor Douglas S. Holberg and the City Manager, Ms. Jessica W. O'Connor. Congratulations.
we're gonna get a picture and have y'all all just line up in front of the dais.
Come down here. And not to mention, it was left off of this proclamation, but these young ladies had a grade point average of all these young ladies of 3.8. So that's not only super athletes. Not only are they super athletes, but they are great students as well. Did y'all see the survey?
Wow.
That's nice. They have good grades, but they don't get along.
They really love And I said, is he crooked or is he straight?
Polly, if you can come over on this side. All the girls are so tall you can't see. There you go, right there, there you go. Okay, everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa. Oh, I don't need you in the picture, man. What you doing?
Let me get one without yourself.
Can y'all squeeze in just a little bit, please?
Can y'all see me?
I can't see.
Oh, look, I got all the homeless coming in for so
This
long.
is
So
Mayor
that's
Holberg.
what you doing?
Mayor Holberg, you might have to, there,
Hold on, Mayor. She didn't know, man.
you might have to come on
Here,
this.
come on here.
Here, like,
Right here, hold this hand.
Put him between you and Sebastian.
all right.
Now, them tall ones don't be bullied.
Oh, hey, one at a time. Say who taking it first.
Just look in the middle.
All right, we're going to the middle
Yeah.
first. All
I'll
right.
get one in just a second.
All right, y'all smile.
I'll take you.
Okay.
All right, now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get one right here so I can kind of see the girls in the back. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect.
So before y'all leave, just want to give y'all a quick motivational speech. So my basketball experience was playing with Robbie Milner. Y'all know Robbie Milner?
Yes.
So Robbie was, when I was on the Bullets, the coaches said my job was to get the ball to Robbie. And with Robbie, we always got city championships. So I just want to congratulate y'all on being the best of the best. But don't let this define you in terms of the rest of your life. This is the foundation to build upon. You've got great academics. Keep your eyes focused, and win, lose, or draw in life, always give God the glory. So just want to congratulate y'all. Y'all make us proud. And the voice of the Bears right here, we always love to how awesome y'all are. And we're here to serve y'all. And just let us know if you need our assistance. Go Bears. Oh, yes.
I went to the ball game, and I was so excited and so amazed and so proud. There's, a lot of people say different things about Griffin High School. I went to Griffin High School too, but this is some of the greatness that comes out of Griffin High School. And I was so proud of how you all portrayed yourself. It was, not only was it a awesome ball game, but I never saw anybody get upset or have a temper. Y'all,
You want to watch that
y'all were so composed and so well behaved and manner. I'm telling you, it's just amazing.
Let me
I'm so proud of y'all.
cut Ms. Ward off. Now, this has a different type of meaning for Ms. Ward. We couldn't go to Griffin High. That lady integrated Griffin High so that you guys could go out there, you girls could go out there and represent our city, represent us. She integrated. She was one of the first women, first Black people to ever go to Griffin High School. And when she went, it was frowned upon. And now you ladies are out making us proud that we're all Griffin Bears. We're Fairmont Bears, we're Griffin Eagles, we're Griffin Bears, and we all are so proud of it. So when you see me wear this stuff, and you see me support my community, this is what it's all about. This hard work that y'all show, Hosley, Leah Turner does it every time. Everybody out there, from the girls that didn't get to play in the game, your efforts in your classroom, your efforts in the practice, your effort in being mannerable and respectable young ladies means so much to our community. So on behalf of people like Ms. Ward, who way before my time, you just don't know what you have done to lift our community. So when they say bad things about Griffin, we can point to you all, and you not only did you do it on the court, but you also did it in the classroom, and you're doing it elsewhere. So again, congratulations to y'all. And I need to get you to report.
I don't know who's it. Do we take this? Oh, we take this? I'll just say on behalf of Lady Bears, one thing that we strive for is to make sure that we represent the school well, and we wanted to make sure we represented the community well. We knew it wasn't just about us, about Griffin High School. We definitely wanted to make sure that it was about the city of Griffin, especially after the tornadoes that came through here and the devastation. I think that we really, really wanted something positive to come out of it. And that's why you saw us on TV trying to act, we wanted to act the right way. I wanted everybody to see that in Griffin, Spalding County, you have very good student athletes and very good people, and we're strong and we're resilient in the eyes of others. But we do appreciate you all. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you.
Thank you. Y'all are more than welcome to stay at the meeting, but this is going to be the non-exciting part. So if y'all would like to leave, you are more than welcome to leave. Otherwise, we're glad to have you through our discussion this morning. Moving into the next agenda item, we are going to discuss the regulations of food trucks, special events, and temporary uses within the Unified Development Code. Planning and Development Director Chad Jacobs and Tax and Licensing Administrator Karen Bennett will address. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. First, before we get started, I'd like to again congratulate the Lady Bears on their both athletic and academic accomplishments. It's a very awesome thing. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so food trucks, special events and temporary uses. So this will be extremely exciting. As y'all know, this is specifically food trucks is an issue that has kind of, I think, come up before y'all a couple times in the past. And so what we're looking for, obviously, this morning from y'all in this workshop is a little bit of direction in terms of kind of how to proceed. What we're going to present to you guys is kind of a quick review of what we have currently, kind of how we operate with these. Karen is the expert on this. And we're going to then basically ask, kind of get some direction from y'all as well. I would like to add, in addition to this presentation that we're going to give you in the attachments that you have on your agendas, there is the a FAQ from DPH that we leaned on that provided a little bit of summary for y'all. So obviously this is some of the health department information from the state. Then also too, you have in here from the NFPA with respect to fire safety as it relates to food trucks. This information is also in your attachments. Indicates things of how they need to operate in terms of, separation of generators, propane tanks, things of that nature. And then also too, we provided you guys a copy of the relatively new House Bill 1443 that regulates certain changes that came down from the state that we would also have to follow. So I just wanted to make sure that we at least pointed that out to y'all. Those were some of the additional attachments that you have. So with that being said, food trucks, special events, and temporary uses. So why did we kind of lump all this together? As you'll know, or as you'll see here, these things tend to be closely related, especially as it comes to special events and temporary uses. Oftentimes, Karen gets a lot of requests for temporary uses for food trucks and kind of standalone areas, or we'll have a number of different special events that may take place downtown, and which would also involve food trucks. So it made sense to kind of talk about these all together. And to just point out to you, upcoming on April 15th, Karen is currently working on 3 applications. One is the Young Life Griffin 5K that may take place that morning. And then there's possibly a parade that may take place a little bit later in that day. And then a downtown special event at the Cotton Mill. These are all great examples of kind of how basically everything that we're going to talk about right now is all going to kind of happen actually on one day, and why we need a little bit of direction here. So food trucks. So They're currently not regulated locally outside of what the Department of Public Health has and the National Fire Protection Association requirements, and those were the attachments that we provided you guys on the agenda. The Department of Public Health requires compliance with all applicable local ordinances and are required to have a base of operations and a letter of authorization from the food truck. So the base of operations, what is that? So that is the place where wastewater from the truck is dumped, water tanks refilled, storage and / preparation of food, washing, rinsing, sanitizing of any dishes or utensils too big to be washed on the truck. Cleaning and servicing of the truck is performed at the base of operations, and the permit holder must return to their base of operations daily. So this is what's currently required from DPH. Also, the base of operations may be permitted at a residential dwelling if local ordinance permits. I want to make sure that we distinguish that. That's a big if. So House Bill 1443, some of the highlights of this. This was effective in January of this year. It allows food trucks to only be permitted in their base county without needing a permit in each county they are serving. Before this, you had to go and get a permit from each county that you were going to serve. And so this kind of, much like with when somebody comes in for a building permit, like a contractor where they've got a business license, say maybe in Marietta or Gwinnett County or something like that, it's kind of like a reciprocal agreement where they don't have to get one through us. So think of it much like that. However, they must operate subject to any ordinances of each city or county they are operating within. And so that's kind of where we're going to look possibly for some direction from y'all. A copy of the base permit in good standing must first be submitted and verified by the outside city or county. Along with the permit, they must provide a listing of any other counties where it is authorized to operate, a listing of locations in the county where the food truck intends to operate, including dates and times of the intended operation. And finally, the food truck owner is required to apply for a letter of authorization with Sparta County DPH. Upon application, they are required to submit the DPH food service permit from their county of origin. Property owner authorization for the site location, toilet use agreement, and a $50 payment fee. County of origin's food service permit must be in good standing as well. And again, these are all kind of a summary of the changes from House Bill 1443. Karen, is there anything you want to add to that portion?
On that line, toilet use agreement, $50 payment. So do some of the food trucks have bathroom facilities in them? Or is that something?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
That's just something that DPH requires as part of their application process for the letter of authorization. And basically what House Bill 1443 did was in each county, there was like a plan review process. And those plan review fees range from maybe like in Pike County where it was like $150, maybe DeKalb County where it's like $300, Spalding $250. So basically that House bill protected some of our food trucks from having to pay those substantial fees in every county that they wanted to serve in.
Didn't the base fee change to, I mean, they increased across the board too, right?
As far as the plan review fee goes from DPH, that's up to the county of origin.
Okay.
So that would, they would no longer be required to do that in every county that they serve in. So currently, right now, we treat food trucks, we welcome them under temporary use permitting process that you can find in 504. The food truck owner, if it's just a standalone for-profit exercise, so they apply for a temporary use permit. It's good for 14 consecutive days, once a quarter per parcel. The cost to them, to the city is $100. This doesn't include the cost that it costs them through DPH, but to the city, they pay $100. Whenever they apply for the temporary use permit, we require their public health food service permit and a local fire marshal inspection. And our fire marshal does a great job at keeping track of those on social media to see who's coming in and who's planning to serve here and reaching out to them to make sure that they have that inspection. Now on the other side of it with special event permitting, it's the event producer's responsibility to report if they're gonna have food trucks there. We just started capturing this information not too terribly long ago. And so whenever the event producer applies for a special event permit, much like the downtown council just recently did for the event that we're trying to reschedule for this weekend, they apply for the special event permit. It costs nothing. We don't have any fees associated with that. There's a lot of work that goes into approving or reviewing a special event permit. But there's no cost to the applicant. We still ask for the food service permit for each food truck that's gonna be at their special event, as well as ensuring that they've had the fire marshal inspection from our fire marshal.
Any questions?
I have one. Each time they apply for a permit, it's good for 14 days, they have to pay $100, right?
Yeah.
So that's
As a temporary
each
use.
time. It's not $100 for years. Okay, gotcha.
So each, if, an organization or somebody having an event apply, they're responsible for, is it reporting to you, or does the business, the food truck have to come in to get a permit?
So if
How do
it's,
they get that?
if it's under the special event permitting process, the producer of the event is going to report what food trucks are gonna be at their event. So that we make sure that they have their DPH food service permit and they've been inspected by the fire marshal. So it's the
Okay.
producer's
So how do you do that? Do they reach, the business reach out to you, or do you reach out to them?
The producer applies online. We have an online application process
Mhm.
and they submit all those documents at the time that they apply.
Church, but what about churches?
Churches that have special events on their own property, DPH, and we're trying to get some more guidance and clarity from DPH's regulations with nonprofits, city organizations like us. When we have our events, we want to make sure we're in compliance that way. But it's just up to the producer to make sure that all those documents are filed with the application.
So the church is not exempt.
The church is, I'm sorry, yes, to answer your question, the church is exempt if it's on their own property. But if the church, like, I can't remember the name of the church several years ago where I guess their facility couldn't hold the crowd size that they anticipated. So they had to apply for a temporary use permit when they went to another location.
But if it's on their property, they'll
They're
pay.
good to go.
And current analysis, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One more question, going back to the temporary use permit, the $100 cost each time, is that something new? I'm not that familiar with food trucks, or is that how we've always done business, or is this what you're?
As long as I've been here, which is going on 9 years, it has been $100 for the temporary use.
And that's just
14
temporary
days.
uses in general, so irrespective of whether it's a food truck or what have you.
Selling rugs,
Yeah.
the meat guy that shows up at the BP and selling frozen meats, they're all kind of treated the same.
And that's partly why we're kind of coming to you, why we're talking about all this together, because it is a little bit of a cumbersome process. So to try to work within the confines of the current ordinance as written, kind of, but how the environment is changing, you know, especially as it relates to a special event. So kind of the analogy that we've been using with respect to the special events is much like with a building permit. When a general contractor comes in to pull a building permit for a house, you know, that would essentially be like the event promoter, you know, as it would relate to a special event. And then so that contractor for a building permit is going to put all the subs underneath him, you know, so your HVAC and electrical and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where the individual food trucks for the special event will kind of be like those subs. So that's kind of how we've got it set up right now. So to try to make it as user-friendly as possible, but yes, sir.
The event producer says no cost. Does he actually charge the food trucks? I mean, it says no cost. No cost to who?
It's no cost to the city, like we do not collect a permitting fee for special events.
Okay, all right.
But potentially, like the downtown council could potentially charge a $25 registration fee or something like that in terms of part of the fundraising, okay, offset the cost of things.
So fantastic questions. And so all these questions that you guys are asking, exactly kind of why we're wanting to come to you with this right now. So again, you know, next steps. So again, food trucks are currently only allowed as a temporary use and during special events. So this is where we're kind of asking you Should we develop and adopt a specific food truck ordinance? Should they be allowed only as a temporary standalone location, and subject to that ordinance compliance? Or in addition to that, should we allow food truck courts? So that's the other thing that we would be getting some interest in, folks wanting to come in and designate an area and set it up as a course. So whether you allow, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, I don't know. And then how does that look like? And then where do you designate that? How do you do that? So is that something that we want to do? So that's kind of where we're looking to get a little bit of guidance from you guys. And before we start to sit down and start to write some code and bring some language before you guys, obviously, there's concerns, that could come from the brick and mortar stores as it relates to these. So, obviously we're going to want to get their input as well. But it's, there's some model ordinances that are out there to look at. Statesboro has an ordinance that's out there. I think Karen indicated Spalding County have recently passed an ordinance. So we're kind of doing some research as it relates to that, but we still want to get an idea of kind of where y'all feel.
I would be more comfortable, we heard from the brick and mortar.
Okay.
Because I think it would be sort of a, I don't know that word I'm gonna use to.
We've had pushback
Yeah,
from the brick and mortar.
pushback.
We discussed this 7 or 8 years ago. So
It's kind of like when the fair comes to town. And it's kind of like, who used to do Taste of Downtown. And, the people who paying rent every month and utility bills, they get a dent in their business because we allow somebody who didn't have to go through or doesn't have to go through what they're going through to do the same thing that they're doing. So this is always a concern.
Understand?
When you talk about a court, would that be like a food truck would rent a space in the court, or would it be different people, how would that work?
It's all open at this point. So that'd be something that we would look at various different ordinances. My opinion on that, you would want to make sure that they rotate. That's not something to where you go in and someone can kind of just rent a permanent spot because of the concern as it would relate to the brick and mortar.
But even though they would not have to have, would they have to have a business license from us?
That's something that we definitely need to discuss is if we had a food truck ordinance, would we want them to pay the occupational tax like our brick and mortar businesses?
Okay. Okay. I just lost my train of thought. But the other thing I was thinking was that they would still have to have their all of their compliances and license stuff from the state.
Yes, they would. So if we had a food truck court, those food truck vendors are responsible for obtaining the letter of authorization from Spalding County DPH. That whatever their regulation requirements are, that's what they would suffice for DPH. Whatever we would require, they would need to do. But the one thing I think to keep in mind with a food truck court is that every food truck vendor is required to go back to their base of operations at the end of the day. So the term roach coach is used in DPH. You wouldn't stay there. The food truck vendor would not just set up shop like a commercial location with a temporary structure forever and a day. They would have to go back to the base of operations.
Do we have food trucks that are operating here in Spalding County and their base is, well, if they're operating that, and their base is actually in Griffin and Spalding County, they're paying some kind of taxes and stuff?
Yes, we do. So Affordable Gourmet is the city's only food truck that has a base of operations here. He's done everything that he needs to do as far as base of operations. He has an OTC. He serves in our community. Chamber of Commerce uses him frequently. I think he wishes.
So that's where that he has to have a place to dump, brings dump.
Right, all of that.
But it is in the city.
It is in the city, yes, ma'am. I think he would like to do more with his base of operations since it is set up much like a restaurant to prepare food. I think he wishes that he could serve more from his food truck, from his base of operations, but because of temporary use, that only allows him to do that 14 consecutive days once a quarter.
Is base of operations the city? county, or is it actually a business he has to go
It's
to?
wherever their business location
Okay.
is. So it's the place that you're gonna have your sanitary requirements. It's the place where here in the city of Griffin, Douglas White, our environmental compliance officer, is gonna check for fats, oils, and grease requirements. It's just where, kind of just like a restaurant, but maybe on a smaller scale, depending on their menu. Their menu derives whatever their requirements are.
So if you get a food truck, just, let's say someone like Kizzy Cakes, who just does cakes and desserts, they're not doing any cooking or anything, they're just serving cakes on site somewhere. Would that be considered a food truck?
Kizzy Cakes is regulated under Department of Agriculture. If she was set up at a special event under a producer, then she would be free to do that. I think when it comes to like food preparation on site, I think that's whenever environmental health would get involved to make sure that it's sanitary and we don't have any cross contamination going on. And
Taco stands, stuff like that.
yeah, anything that's prepared, but Kizzy Cakes, they're a bakery. So if they prepare on site and they sell or cater elsewhere, it just depends on, now if she wanted to set up, like in the beginning, whenever she was, before she had a location, she was set up, between city and county, selling her cakes. I don't know if she started off as a cottage food licensee, but, I imagine she did. A lot of our bakeries start at home, and that's allowed by law too.
Do we have, what does the demand look like that you all are getting? And, I guess I'm looking at, if we had a specific ordinance, would that help you all, for this demand, or all the applications, or all the regulations you're having to do? Is that kind of what that means?
That's a very good question, and I'm thankful that you asked that. Yes, we need some guidance from y'all. We're receiving an uptick in phone calls regarding food trucks. For years, we've been telling them to check back with us. We may have a food truck ordinance to come. I know that it's trending right now. I know that shared kitchen spaces and all that kind of stuff, when it relates to people starting out, a lot of people don't have the money to just go out and open up a restaurant. So if we want to encourage that phase of business in our community, and we want to have eateries here, and we want to grow, this may just be something that y'all may want to marinate on a little bit, and just think, how can we make this fit? How can we make our businesses that are already here happy and welcoming to the idea? Because they started from somewhere too. So just something to think about. But if we had something, that would be great for us, some kind of guideline.
Because right now Karen's having to operate within the confines of code that was written that's really kind of predates a lot of these activities that she's dealing with right now. And kind of to that point, this could be a jumping off point for a brand new business. You can start off in a food truck and hopefully make the jump then to brick and mortar. It's trying to find the right balance in terms of maintaining that, and that's why we do think that having some type of food truck ordinance would be very, very important.
We're gonna define what a food truck actually is. I mean, compared to me pulling up with my pickup truck and a barbecue grill in the back, I mean, is that a food truck? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question too. DPH would definitely be the one to regulate that as far as what constitutes a food truck, and because they issue the mobile unit food service permit. But it would not probably be a bad idea for us to have a definition if we had an ordinance on this.
And the Kona Ice trucks, they work the same, or is that considered?
I think they're considered a food truck. It's just who regulates them is the question. A lot of your beverages, that if you're not slicing and dicing fruit and maybe there's like some cross contamination going on with like dairy and stuff. I'm not an expert in that part of the field for sure. I don't want to speak for DPH, but it just depends. I always tell our customers that somebody's going to fight. The Department of Agriculture or Department of Environmental Health, they're going to fight over you. So you present your menu to both of them and figure out which one wants to issue the permit for you.
I've been to other communities where they've had food trucks associated with tap rooms and things like that. Kennesaw, Franklin, North Carolina, you know, all sorts of places. But again, back to Rodney's point is that when we discussed this 7 or 8 years ago, brick and mortar had a pushback. Now maybe that has changed a little bit in terms of being a little more open. So I think having possibly a town hall meeting where we invite the public to come and just kind of give us some feedback, maybe an option.
That's a great idea.
Would you agree on that? And then that way,
A lot of the brick and mortar have actually gone out and joined the game with food trucks.
right,
A lot of
so,
them kind
so
of-
they may have changed their
Right.
position over the last decade.
And keep in mind too, any type of ordinance that we bring before y'all has to go through the public hearing process. So obviously that's an opportunity too for folks to kind of speak, but you know, town hall meeting isn't a bad idea. To kind of get some input prior to.
And I would, if that is the case, that a lot of the brick and mortar are going to, entertaining the food truck idea, I think it'd be good for us to, I don't know, I guess give them some type of discount or something, since they're already in business, we're not going to add something else to them. Whereas a new person coming on, you know, that it would be more of an incentive for them to say, okay, they're doing this, I can do the same thing, but I'm not having to pay an extra. It comes with what I already have. If you understand what I'm
So
saying.
if I'm understanding that correctly, we'll use Juan with and Erica at Corner Cafe, for example. So their food is great. Sometimes they cater to Sun City Peachtree a bit. We can't speak for them because they're in the county, but say they want to take their food truck and set up in the Walmart parking lot or somewhere to offer people who don't necessarily like the downtown area, they're offering their food somewhere else in the city or county. Or we can't really speak for the county, I'm sorry, but just another location that's in the city, we would just waive those permitting fees. Is that what you're suggesting?
Am I guess, yeah, I
Okay.
guess it's that one.
And what about, even though we don't have a designated court or food truck court yet, do we have location designations for, because I've only seen them in parking lots or special events, but maybe we could identify available areas or where they could go.
That would be a part of the ordinance process. We would definitely need to designate how those courts would look, how big the site
And
is.
then limitations for a business, of how many times they could have, they couldn't have it where it's every day they're popping something.
And so, and there's a lot of things too that we need to keep in mind in the regulation of those, like, you know, I understand the rotation of the individual trucks in there too, but there's a regulatory component of that too, that how do we go about doing that? You know, who's, you know, does code enforcement go out there and log how many days, you know, or is it just in the information that they submit back to us, you know, so that those are all things that we would have to consider in establishing a court, so.
Protocols are a big concern. Who determines how many are needed? Do they audit the community and try to figure out how many people are going to show up for this event? I mean, I don't know how that works. So, you know, if you're coming and say, okay, I'm going to apply for a permit and I'm responsible to provide protocols. I mean, could we provide 1, 2, 3? I don't know. How do you determine that?
It's all stuff we do research.
Chicken salad chick, located on 2801. I don't know if it was during the quarantine or what, but they came to set up in the Walmart parking lot. You could order, they did a special order online, and for people that lived in Griffin, they came,
That's right.
go out there and pick up your chicken salad chick. And I don't know what regulation, I don't know, was it a food truck? Was it their Chick-fil-A work truck, you know, like
Yeah.
the van? But they just set up in our town. I'm pretty sure I'm saying I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they paid anything or not. But you were able to just go out there and pick up your orders. I don't know, how does that fall in?
That's a good question. sounds like pre-order
Yeah,
pickup
almost, yeah.
areas.
I don't know, I mean, I went there, sad that they're not there, but.
So the consensus is that we have a kind of a town hall meeting,
Say,
invite the businesses, and it's not just down.
I get downtown and Main Street confused, whichever way.
Well, I'm thinking outside of downtown, but also you've got businesses.
I mean, I think they should have a part.
I mean, El Charro may want to say some things. I mean, other restaurant, brick and mortar restaurants may have a big pushback. And of course, we all don't want to be the ones on the end of the phone line when we make a decision and are backpedaling.
So in addition to, so possibly looking at the town hall meeting, one of the other things that we want to kind of run by y'all too is as it relates to the special events, because food truck ordinance is one option that we need to look at writing, but we also strongly think that we need to write a new special event code as well. What I have on the screen before you now is how we're operating with our special events under section 78-61 through 71. And currently, this is the definition of actually parade. Any form of assembly, march, ceremony, demonstration, show, exhibit, pageant, road race, so on, so on, so on. Then I got further underlined here, in or upon any public street, sidewalk, park, or other public space within the city which impedes, obstructs, impairs, or interferes with free flow of traffic by motor vehicles, pedestrians, or other conveyances within the public street or way. That's just how we're trying to operate within, working with these different events downtown under this code section, which obviously it works for parades and various different things like that. It makes it very, very cumbersome for special events. So what we're thinking is that there needs to be basically a separate code section for special events. And in our opinion, that you would kind of tie this to basically the boundaries of your current special entertainment district. Because that's basically where we're seeing a lot of these event requests are kind of within the special entertainment district already. So to create a code section that operates better within these types of event constraints.
But then you've also got like the Doc Holiday Festival at City Park. You've got the city's food trucks at the.
So currently, all these folks are having to kind of operate within the same confines of what a parade is going to do. Like we just got done mentioning on the 15th, you got 5K road race, possibly a parade later that day, and then an event downtown. And they're all having to kind of operate under that definition that we have. It really doesn't work because, in our opinion, a special event versus a parade are kind of two different kind of operations. So we think that we really need to create a specific special event ordinance that would cater to those types of.
What about a church?
Churches, having special events on their own property. If it does not impede with traffic, or meet that definition, they're free to have.
No, I just got one that kind of goes on, go ahead, for sure.
Yes, it's like when we're doing all these giveaways during the tornadoes. Some of the churches are still doing it, still meet the needs of the community. And some of them cause a lot of traffic at I-10 Rising Star inside a city block. So the parking lot got pretty full, and the street got pretty full as well. So I'm just trying to understand what makes you know that.
Does the entertainment district, where are the boundaries, I guess I'm kind of like Ronnie, going with what's the historic district, what's the downtown district, what's the entertainment district?
It was recently updated, so I know it recently updated to go, I think, to the southern boundary, I would say Poplar, and then as far north as
Broad Street.
Broad Street, yeah, and then I think the western boundary is, what is it, like Fourth, somewhere in November 3rd? I'm sorry, Eastern, and then like 10th Street, I think it was the western. So that would essentially be the special entertainment district. And it's kind of within that boundary that we tend to see the majority of these types of requests.
Trying to give you more food for thought.
There we go.
But I've got a nephew by marriage who operates a 725 barbecue. Okay, I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He's a ordained minister. He cooks barbecue. He does not charge. He goes out to different churches, sets up, does the barbecue, come get what you want. I guess you can give a love offering, if you will. Okay, so he doesn't charge. So how do we permit that? It's not a church. It's a ministry. And not only,
It doesn't matter if it's for profit or not for profit. We as a government cannot distinguish that. So that part would not matter,
okay, so he would still pay the $100 temporary permit.
depending on what we decide to do.
Yeah, as far as our permitting process goes, now DDH may have a different set of rules for profit, not for profit, so.
So we're gonna look at having a town hall meeting, listening session, getting opinions from folks. You're already looking, I guess, at sample ordinances from other communities.
Yes.
And seeing how those could possibly fit, depending on the outcome of that. And then we'll come back and get a staff recommendation from the response we get from.
Can we do that with food truck
commissioners.
ordinances as far as special event?
I think the special event
A code as well?
is a do anything.
Okay.
Probably need to do that anyway. That's something that's broken that we could fix.
Can we do it?
Does that sound good to everybody?
Just understand that without any direction from you all, which I mean, we heard your comments, but there's not really any kind of direction, this is wide open. And
Okay.
so writing an ordinance after town halls, a town hall is only going to create more opinion, not less. So we're not gonna have the ability to write an ordinance. We will have to come back to you after town halls.
That's
Give you
fine.
those comments, and then we're going to have some direction before we can even track.
But
And that's kind of why I
but
mentioned.
the special events, we definitely need to have some type of language that gives you a little more boundaries and
Yes.
control.
We can do that for the special event, but that's also why, with respect to the food truck ordinances, I reference that it's, any language we bring before y'all has to go through a public hearing process.
Yes, sir.
I'm interested in pursuing, looking at the designated area or food court. That your idea would be on public property, or a person like anyone out here could have a lot and entertain that idea? Is that,
Right.
I want to look at that too.
Right now, the request that we're getting is on private property.
Private property, okay. Because right now, we don't have anything that would allow, that has to be.
Yes.
So that-
The courts give me concern without having any type of other language, so that'd be something that I view this kind of almost in a building block kind of.
I see these just about in every community, and I think that we need to entertain that type of revenue and that option. For the time, so I'd like to see that happen here.
Just want to heed you, when we tried this 10 years ago,
I understand, but-
so the brick and mortar, so
I
you got to figure out that balance of where so their attitudes may have changed, so having been gone out.
I agree, I mean, I don't want to step on their toes either, but I mean, just the whole brick and mortar, especially with COVID, we saw, businesses, they decided, hey, we don't need a brick and mortar, so the attitudes changed somewhat, so I would be entertaining, and open to entertaining, their attitudes might have changed on that, especially because a lot of them have joined.
And again, my hope in this is that it's a stepping stone for somebody that can move from a food truck into a brick and mortar thing, but again, it's trying to create a proper balance.
Yeah, it's still nice.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving to our last item of the day is discuss possible street renaming ordinance and current policy for honoring naming of facilities under administrative control of the city. Staff Attorney Chelsea Cardinal will address it. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. So to kind of start out, we had received a request from Commissioner McCord related to a possible street renaming. And that sort of spurred a question for me, are we talking about a street renaming or are we talking about a street dedication? And in the process of researching sort of how to go about that request, we took a look at our current policy. So we do have a current policy for the naming of facilities, erecting plaques, monuments, and markers. That's attached to the agenda item. That was established in January of 2015. And although it is vague, in my opinion, it has been utilized for honorary dedications of facilities and roads under the city's administrative control. So the best example is Kevin Jordan, the police department at 234 North Hill Street. The issue is that while it's been used for honorary dedications, it's vague enough where it could potentially be used for renaming. But my concern is that it doesn't address the larger concerns that go along with the renaming process that I'm gonna go into. So it doesn't account for that impact of renaming a road would completely change how a business would potentially all their business cards, all their labeling, their website, information with the post offices, residents, public safety, things of that nature. So to go into more of the difference between a dedication versus a renaming changes the official name of the road. So the post office obviously has a specific designation for your address, as well as E911 and public safety and your school systems. A lot of that now is being handled in communities across the state and really across the country through GIS systems. And so that information is coordinated from one central hub and then is kind of communicated, and we make sure that it all stays on track between E911 and our public safety agencies. It also would impact ordinances which reference street names. So we do have a speed zone, a portion of our ordinance that handles speed zones that specifically lists street names, as well as business marketing and residential owners. So this renaming has to be coordinated with all local persons who may have an interest in where a particular address could be located to minimize the negative impact of those changes. Dedication and honorary signage, on the other hand, allows for an honorary public recognition of the honorary service to the community. So again, another example would be the Kevin Jordan Memorial Highway. The Georgia General Assembly dedicated a portion of that highway and directed GDOT to post that sign. However, it is still named North Expressway in 1941. So that really is the biggest distinction here, honorary versus a name change. One has a critical impact. My concern is that our current policy only anticipates sort of an honorary change, and it fails to account for the impact of renaming. Since 2019, they were doing it before this, but from what I've seen, majority of the updates have happened since 2019, likely because of growing, I guess, concern for a lot of the historical names and designations for streets throughout the South. There have been a growing number of municipalities who have adopted ordinances setting procedures for renaming roads. And the main thing is getting the community involved, making sure that all of your departments who could be impacted have a seat at the table so that they can make a full recommendation, as well as giving the community an opportunity to voice their concerns if they would like name change. So the intent of these procedures is to create an objective framework to be able to evaluate that. So that's community feedback and buy-in from businesses and residences who would be impacted by a change, recoupment of costs for creation and installation of signing, as well as any advertising costs associated with the petition for the name change itself. We do have a provision in our current policy that allows for whoever is petitioning for a honorary signage or honorary designation to pay for certain signage costs. But in majority of cases, like with our police department building, the city is the one making that request, and so we just sort of wield that cost. But if we're talking about a renaming, at that point, it could be expensive for the sign shop, and if it's coming from an external party, not within the city, those costs would need to be recouped. It also allows for consultation with other government services, including E911, which would include the county, as well as Griffin Spalding County School System and Fire and Rescue. We do have a cooperative, agreement for mutual aid between public safety personnel. So we would need to make sure that they're aware of that change as well as consultation with other city departments and systems who would need to discuss the impact of that change, whether it be public works, water, any departments that may have contracts that are specific to certain roads, such as with electric, cutting down certain tree branches and things along those lines as an example. So street renaming procedures commonly include criteria that are actually similar to our current facility and street renaming policy. So persons who were born or live in Georgia who have had a historical contribution of service. Some are more specific and require it to be, if it's not a nationwide contribution, that it be specific to the city itself. Commemorations considered for 12 months after the death of the honoree, and evidence of consent of the family members, estates, and relevant groups. So all that, that's what we currently require under our policy. Where they differ, however, is it brings in this considering the impact of the change. So they do require a petition, usually with about 66% or 2/3 of abutting property owners agreeing to that name change. So before you can submit the petition, you do have to show that you have that buy-in. There are specific rules, so every property gets one vote. If that property is a rental property, then the tenant can be the one who actually signs the petition. We can consider that as an option or limit it to property owners only, but there's only one signature per property that abuts the area that would be impacted. Payment of a non-refundable application fee, because this would require a lot of initial work on behalf of city staff, as well as any administrative fees. The application fee covers that staff review as well as publication in the newspaper. If that was a direction that we wanted to go down, that would essentially allow for the community to say, hey, we see that this is happening. As well as certified mail notice where applicable to those other abutting property owners who may not have signed the petition. Administrative fees covering costs for manufacturing and installation of new signs, as well as address reassignment that would need to take place throughout our systems, including GIS. It would allow for notice and feedback to E911 schools, post office, and others. Usually this happens by certified mail, and a deadline is set, at which time if you don't receive a response, you consider E911 in the school system to have no objections. There's also a public hearing and publication of the notice in the newspaper, as I mentioned, as well as recommendations of staff and adoption or denial by the commissioners. So that's sort of the process that a lot of these anticipate. The ones that have included it, just from
What was the last line you just read?
Recommendation of staff and adoption or denial by the commissioners. So the petition would be submitted with the signatures. It would need to be presented in, I believe it's Augusta. They actually put this in the hands of their GIS department to lead. So the petition is submitted to GIS, who handles the publication and makes sure that they're coordinating notice with E911, as well as public safety groups in the schools, because their GIS department already has those direct contacts to make any changes. At that point, once that's done, the GIS department communicates with all of the other departments to see if they have any objections, and then they present to the commission a staff recommendation on whether or not to adopt the change.
So the bottom line is only commission to make a decision.
Ultimately, yes. And it just like any other change. And we would do that, no different than our normal policy. But right now, it's open-ended and it can be very subjective, where unless we have a system, you may not know that you have a community objection, or you may not know that there is an impact through E911 or otherwise. And so this allows it to sort of remove the subjective and make it objective, and make it where it's going to be the same across the board. This would be in addition to any honorary designations, which would still operate under our normal policy, although I do believe that needs to be updated as well. So the next steps, in light of the recent interest in street renaming and the gaps in that current naming or dedication policy, I would recommend the creation of street naming ordinance and codification of that honorary facility and street dedication policy. That would come in two parts, which would be updating the current policy in order to narrow the scope to dedication rather than open-ended renaming, and as well as creation of a street naming ordinance that accounts for serious nature of changing those street names within the community. And to go back, so the cities that, just from a brief search, have done this since 2019 and adopted these policies include the city of Augusta, city of Vienna, Brazelton, city of Savannah, and Valdosta. There are others, but those were the ones that had policies that I think would closely mirror what I would feel comfortable, presenting to you. It is the ultimate goal is objectivity and making sure that we're communicating with anybody who could be impacted. The really radical example that I would actually use is if we, all of a sudden wanted to change the name of Hill Street, you'd have a lot of businesses who would have to invest in making serious changes to all of their marketing. I mean, everything. between, the post office and their addresses and the contracts that we have, a lot of things would need to be updated. And so, you can say, well, that's a radical example, but even in the smaller examples, you may have residences that are in our residential neighborhoods that also operate as businesses who would have the same, have the same issues. So presenting this, in a framework where we know step by step, top to bottom, what's expected, it allows us to make sure we're consistent for all naming going forward.
That previous slide, that we just had, about that. What was the percentage of buy-in, 66?
66%, yes.
That's just kind of a weird number, so where did, that's just.
66% is what they have listed, but I think they were going for 2/3.
Okay.
Yeah, so two-thirds buy-in of any property abutting. So if there's only 4 properties that are abutting the street that you're looking to rename, then, you would essentially be looking for 3 out of the 4 saying, yeah, I don't mind this being renamed, yeah.
I brought this up and, not to be contentious, it was said that it was a street naming game that I was doing. But actually, I was approached by people, and when I'm approached in my community, if somebody asks me about something, I don't mind bringing it forward. And if the commission doesn't want to vote for it, or anybody else that think it's a good idea, they're welcome. Their opinion is welcome. I brought it before the board for us, ultimately, out of all what you read, for us to vote on it. The streets that were mentioned, Cabin Creek Drive, it's been changed from, well, it's not that hasn't been changed, Pool Road was changed, but Cabin Creek Drive from 6th Street to Haskell Ward Drive to be named in honor of Haskell Ward, who actually is still living. And it impacts the school, which the school is providing a letter of support because of his thing that he's done for the school, and they can speak on that. And it was asked that we make that whole street into Haskell Ward Drive. The other street was 3rd Street, which there's only one house on that street. There's nothing else. That's from Taylor Street to Solomon Street. There are no other houses. We're not taking any Confederate's name off of any street. We're not taking any person's name unless the person's last name is first or third. But I think it's 3rd Street, whichever one it is. Is it 3rd? What is it? Is it 3rd Street? 3rd Street. 3rd Street. Unless somebody's last name is Third. We're not removing anyone's name. It's just as a request. If we want the person that sent the information, Dr. Charles K. Relford, historical figure in our community. And if the board wants to vote on it, we can vote on it. And if not, then you don't have to. I mean, it's just, to me, that's where we are. I understand all what you're saying. These two, what I'm talking about, the people that it impacts the most, more elementary, they're in favor of it. 3rd Street, I don't know who would be against it, since there is it 4? Next to?
For 3rd Street.
No.
3rd Street.
3rd Street, next to the Louises, behind Louises now. That's 3rd.
Website shopping.
Yeah, Snow Real Estate, I think that's 3rd. No.
Well, I'm actually really glad that you brought it up, because I do think that this is a gap. And while, I think your example actually kind of brings forth the reason why we need these in the first place.
Right.
Because you have someone come to you who's very interested in this, and the school system being one of them, there's no mechanism other than saying, hey, someone wants this, for us to be able to actually evaluate how to make that change and how to cover sort of every gap where it may impact us within the community. And so this would create a system where they can actually submit a petition and say, here's what we have. It also make sure that the system is objective in the future. So while this may only impact, or these examples may only impact a certain number of residences or a certain number of people, and we may have, perfect buy-in, it's not necessarily about objections for these. It's about setting a precedent going forward and making sure that we are consistent in when we choose to make, those renaming decisions.
I think that's what put in there, and you talked about the historical, so on and so forth. I think the two that I brought, they fit that. You know, if when they come up and say they want to name a street that Arnold Brighton Court, then it may not meet that criteria. So that's the point that I'm making. Mine, what I brought, that was brought to me fits into all of this.
Yes, yes.
And that's what I want to be clear of. So if the board wanted to vote on it, want to make that decision, and then just make that decision. I mean, it's either yes or no. I mean, my feelings won't be hurt either way on either one of them. But I'm never afraid to make a decision, except when it comes to food truck. The only thing I'm talking about, make sure we talk to everybody.
Would you like to eat?
Exactly.
Like to eat.
So, but that would be, that's my take on it.
Let me just add real quickly. So the last time that a street renaming came to your attention was in February of 2016. The Housing Authority submitted a formal request to change the street name from Pimenta Avenue to Park Road. They had already done the redevelopment of the Sunshine Apartments, and so within that apartment complex, they had changed the names in the complex. So the street that would have run or runs directly into the apartment complex also crosses Meriwether, and they changed that to Park Road. They submitted a formal request to the city of Griffin asking us to change Pimenta Avenue from Meriwether to the end, where it used to dead end before they built their other facility, to Park Road. So you considered that by resolution. However, you also had a public hearing. And you sent notice to the people that would have been impacted. So no, it wasn't just a vote of the board. We did all of those things first. I don't know, we could pull minutes from that meeting to see if we had any objection. I know that to this day, we have objections and concerns with it, both from Mr. Redding that lives at the end of Park. And also I know that Platte and Fur had a lot of issues with the change. And so I think that what we are trying to establish is some consistency so that we can say these are the things that we need to look at every single time, whether it is one house, 4 houses, or 15 houses. And if they do not meet whatever those requirements are that you want them to meet, then the answer is no. Whether that comes through a staff recommendation that the board votes on or not, right now, the way you have handled it most recently is through a public hearing with prior notice to those that would be affected, as well as discussion with public agencies such as the U.S. Postal Service, is what this says, and then you all voted after a public hearing.
And I think Park Road's a perfect example because our GIS department, with the number of Park Place, Park Road, Park Circles, the complication there between that plus, public safety concerns really draws the point home that small things, small changes can have a big impact on operations.
I don't have any objection to anything that was said. I would love for us to, for the two that I presented, I would like whatever changes we have, I'd like for them to go through the process of public hearings, and let the commission vote. I'm not asking anything out of the ordinary. When I say that the commission votes on it, all I'm saying is after everything that is supposed to be done, the commission has to vote on it.
Okay,
So we have a staff recommendation to create a street name ordinance and codification of our honorary facility street dedication policy. And that's a recommendation for staff. So we can take that under advisement or disregard it and bring it for board. So I don't know.
And the honorary, we did an honorary, like the one is gonna be Kevin doing. We didn't have to vote on anything. Did we vote on it? We didn't vote on it. We did, but it didn't have to go through all the other process.
No, and I do think that there can be, leeway when you're talking about an honorary designation because it doesn't impact operations. You're showing, you might be posting a plaque, and in a lot of those situations, you're not having an outside party come and request. A lot of times that's coming from city staff or coming from you as a board. And so you are, footing the cost of putting that monument up or, footing the cost of putting the sign up at the new police department. So that has, the impact is significantly less than a renaming that can impact a whole slew of other departments around the community, countywide, even some, the federal agencies when it comes to the post office.
Any other comments?
So would you like me to begin working on an ordinance or presentation?
Yes. Okay. Is there anything else today? Do we have an update on when we're going to reschedule our NIMS training?
I don't have it yet, no, I'm sorry. Jason Ritter, who's our GMA representative for our region, lives in LaGrange and also obviously represents True County. And so through their disaster Sunday and Monday piece, and we've been communicating, I think this is through Hamilton, but no, he's too busy with all of that right now. We'll get it back on the calendar as soon as we can. My hope is the workshop in April and just sort of prepare like we did for today. One comment though, if you have not yet turned in your GMA registration and your class choices and hotel choices, please bring them back with you tonight. Registration is Thursday morning, and if you remember, if we don't register you Thursday morning, you don't get anything. So we really want to make sure we have that ready to go before Thursday morning. It'll be Thursday at 9 is when it opens.
Anything else? We'll see y'all tonight. We have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Murray with a motion, second by Mr. Tensley. All in favor, say aye. Bye.